What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Writing Tips, where I talk about tropes and archetypes from your favorite stories in the hopes that you can learn a little bit more about writing. So, a while back, I made some videos breaking down different team archetypes, like the power trio, the 5-man band, and the magnificent 7 samurai. I'll be referencing those videos throughout today's episode, so if you want to check them out ahead of time and avoid feeling like any of my references are flying over your head, I'll drop the links down below. I also did a video covering a team archetype called the Elite Four. But, to be honest, the Elite Four is more of a niche case, a subtrope of the broader 4-person team format, and it always felt a little unfair to spotlight that subtrope without giving the classic version its own proper video. So today, we're doing exactly that. We're diving into one of the most iconic and widely used group dynamics out there, the 4-man band. Now, the 4-man band can come in one of 3 versions. There's the comedic version of the 4-man band, which I'm going to nickname as the Funny Foursome. Then, there's the second version, which TV Tropes calls the 4 temperament ensemble, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to call them the 4 personalities. And lastly, there's the 4 philosophy ensemble, which I'm going to call the 4 philosophies. If you go on TV Tropes, you'll notice that I'm not following the exact same style and structure as they are for this video, so just bear with me, and by the end of the video, I'll clarify why I chose to explain the 4-man band a little bit differently. For each of these 3 versions of the 4-man band, we're going to look at a few examples of 4-man bands, such as the Golden Girls, the Ghostbusters, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 3 Musketeers, and the Fantastic Four, who fulfill all 3 versions of the archetype, as well as a handful of other examples from games, movies, and shows. The Funny Foursome. The Funny Foursome, like the comic trio, are a comedic group. They are the backbone of most adult animated comedy shows, since they are usually the main protagonists. This ensemble is pretty much just the comic trio we discussed in our Power Trio video, except you just add one more extra character to the group. With this version of the 4-man band, you get the only sane man, the leader, the butt monkey, aka the fool, and you can get either the Casanova wannabe or the heroic comedic sociopath as your new 4th character. As the name suggests, the only sane man is the only character in the group who has common sense and acts like a normal person, always being embarrassed by the rest of the group's behavior. They'll be the ones who will try to steer the rest of the group away from trouble, but their attempts at normalcy fail about 99 to 100% of the time, because after all, if they were successful, you wouldn't have any funny shenanigans going down in the story, and it'd make for a very boring comedy. The leader will obviously be the most intelligent or book-smart one in the group, but karma will constantly humble them as they are always arrogantly commenting on the stupidity of their friends, only for circumstances to humble them and remind the leader that they are not as clever as they thought they were. The butt monkey is a character who is the butt of most, if not every, joke, usually being the number 1 target for comedic relief within the group. This may be because the butt monkey character also fulfills the fool archetype carried over from the comic trio archetype, which also makes them the dumbest and most gullible member of the group. Sometimes, the butt monkey may not even be the fool, and they just happen to be the unluckiest member in the group, who is always getting screwed over, and their bad luck is the source of their comedy. Now for the 4th member. You'll get one of 2 different types of characters. If you get the Casanova wannabe, then that means your 4th character will be a huge flirt who thinks that they are the sexiest person on Earth, and they're always trying to romance everyone they meet. Depending on the writer, the Casanova wannabe's seductive ways may be very successful, or they may come across as awkward, cringy, or silly. One character who I believe is the epitome of the Casanova wannabe trope is Joey from Friends.
How you doing?
He's probably the most iconic and recognizable example of this trope within modern fiction. But in other examples of the Funny Foursome, you'll get the heroic comedic sociopath instead of a Casanova wannabe. And if that happens, then that means your 4th character is a very special sort of comedic relief who engages in extreme or outrageous behavior like lying, cheating, violence, theft, and other forms of minor crimes like felonies and misdemeanors, but they do so in a way that is primarily played for laughs. This character is pure chaos, and they are usually the wild one, if not the wildest one in the group. Despite their questionable ethics, the heroic comedic sociopath will commit these reckless antics to help the group's cause, which ultimately makes them somewhat noble or heroic. Their charm, wit, and unpredictability make them memorable, even if they're not traditionally moral or responsible. If you want a golden example of a heroic comedic sociopath, look no further than Dwight Schrute on The Office.
Last week I gave a fire safety talk, and nobody paid any attention. It's my own fault for using PowerPoint. PowerPoint is boring. People learn in lots of different ways, but experience is the best teacher.
So for your fourth character in the four-man band, you either get a Joey or you get a Dwight. Going back to what I said earlier about the Funny Foursome being the backbone of most adult animated comedy shows, in South Park, you have Stan as the only man, Kyle as the leader, Kenny as the unlucky butt monkey, and Cartman is a severe case of the heroic comedic sociopath, minus the heroic part in most cases. In Family Guy, Peter and Joe will take turns being either the only sane man or the leader depending on the skit or scenario, while Cleveland is always the butt monkey and Quagmire is always the Casanova wannabe. In The Simpsons, Marge is the only sane man, Lisa is the leader, Homer is the butt monkey, and Bart is the heroic comedic sociopath since his nature as a prankster and rule breaker overrules any flirting he does with girls at school. In King of the Hill, Hank is the only sane man, Dale is the leader, Bill is the butt monkey, and Boomhauer is the Casanova wannabe. If we shift gears over to kids' cartoons, we'll see that in Madagascar, out of the four penguins, Skipper is the only sane man, Kowalski is the leader, Private is the butt monkey, and Rico is the heroic comedic sociopath. While in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Chip will be the only sane man, Gadget is the leader, Monterey Jack is the butt monkey, and Dale is the Casanova wannabe. When it comes to the Ninja Turtles, every incarnation of the Turtles will have Leo as the only sane man, while Donnie is the leader, Mikey is the butt monkey, and Raph is the heroic comedic sociopath.
I dream about fighting every night.
You got a rage problem, Raph.
That's not a problem.
Within the realm of live action, you have multiple examples of the Funny Foursome existing as both action teams and comedic teams, like in the Fantastic Four, the Three Musketeers, and the A-Team. In the A-Team, B.A. is the only sane man, Hannibal is the leader, Murdoch is the butt monkey, and Face is the Casanova wannabe. Whenever the Fantastic Four find themselves in comedic scenarios, Sue Storm is the only sane man, her husband Reed will be the leader, the Thing will be the butt monkey, but not because he's an airhead, but more because he's just unlucky, and Johnny will be the Casanova wannabe. And in the Three Musketeers, D'Artagnan is the only sane man since he's the newbie, with Athos being the leader, Porthos being the unlucky butt monkey due to his boisterous nature, and Aramis as the smooth and suave Casanova wannabe. For live-action sitcoms like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and The Golden Girls, Dee is the only sane man, Dennis is the leader, Charlie is the butt monkey, and Mac is the Casanova wannabe. While Dorothy is the only sane man, Sophia is the leader, Rose is the butt monkey, and Blanche is the Casanova wannabe. Not to mention, in The Hangover, Doug is the only sane man, Stu is the leader, Alan is the butt monkey, and Phil is the Casanova wannabe. Now for the second version of the four-man band, the Four Personalities. This is probably the most common iteration of the four-man band, and the one you will see pop up the most in pop culture and modern fiction. These four personalities that represent their own individual character archetypes are categorized as sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic. These four personalities can overlap with any of the other two versions of the four-man band, often correlating with the Funny Foursome and the Four Philosophies. The sanguine. They're cheerful, sociable, and energetic extroverts. The sanguine personalities are the fun-loving ones, often being the comedic relief of the group, or at least the one with the most enthusiasm. They're driven by curiosity and a desire to enjoy life to the fullest. They are known to be mischievous, lighthearted, and unpredictable, adding energy and surprise to the group. They can also be the most ambitious and success-driven members of the group. The choleric. They're strong and assertive extroverts that are full of passion, often the team's leader or driving force. The cholerics are the hotheads of the team. Their confidence and impulsiveness push the team forward even if they butt heads with the others. They are determined and driven by a strong sense of duty and purpose. The choleric can often overlap with the lancer, the big guy, or the headstrong leader archetypes from the five-man band. The melancholic. They are reflective, cautious, and analytical introverts, often acting as the team's conscience or voice of reason since they are the thoughtful ones. They think deeply and may seem pessimistic, but their insights keep the team grounded. Even though they see the world through a critical and sometimes gloomy lens, their wisdom helps offer insight and guidance to the team. The melancholic can sometimes overlap with the smart guy, the mastermind leader, and the mentor archetypes from the five-man band and Magnificent Seven samurai archetypes. The phlegmatic. They are calm, patient, and often provide stability to the group, preferring to go with the flow rather than lead. But that isn't to say that phlegmatic personalities can't be leaders. In fact, if they are, then that means they are usually going to be the level-headed leader or the charismatic leader archetype from the five-man band. The phlegmatic personalities are the laid-back supporters of the team. Their easygoing nature helps soothe tensions and maintain group harmony. Even though the phlegmatic personality is quiet and humble, they are people-oriented and often empathetic and compassionate, which is why they can also overlap with the heart archetype. Within our classic examples of four-person teams, the Fantastic Four is probably the most famous example of the four personalities, with Johnny as the high-energy sanguine, the Thing as the boisterous choleric, Reed as the melancholic thinker, and Sue as the motherly phlegmatic personality. We're going to circle around and revisit the Ninja Turtles, since Mikey definitely qualifies as the party-loving sanguine personality, Raph is the angry, impatient, and violent choleric, Donnie is the rational melancholic, and Leo is the calm, easygoing, and mature phlegmatic personality. Another popular example exists within the Ghostbusters, with Venkman as the lazy yet charming and quippy sanguine, Ray as the choleric with childlike passion, Egon as the unemotional genius melancholic, and Winston as the steady, down-to-earth, and practical phlegmatic. Within the pages of classic literature, we have the main heroes in the Three Musketeers, with Porthos as the social and fun-loving sanguine, D'Artagnan as the hot-headed and passionate upstart, Athos as the reserved, thoughtful, and brooding melancholic, and Aramis as the phlegmatic, easygoing peacemaker of the group. In The Incredibles, Dash is the sanguine because he is the cheerful and energetic rule breaker, while Bob is the choleric because he's disposed to losing his temper and impulsively diving headfirst into danger, while Violet is melancholic because she's a painfully shy teenager, and Helen is phlegmatic because she's the calm matriarch of the family. In The Defenders, Iron Fist is the pleasant and friendly sanguine, Daredevil is the fiery choleric, Jessica Jones is the sarcastic melancholic, and Luke Cage is the easygoing phlegmatic. When it comes to video games, we have Delta Squad in the Gears of War trilogy, Baird is the witty and sarcastic sanguine, Marcus is the tough, no-nonsense choleric leader, Dom is the soulful and sensitive melancholic, and Cole is the laid-back and positive phlegmatic. Moving over to another Delta Squad, except this one is from Star Wars Republic Commando, we have Scorch as the sanguine, Boss as the choleric leader, Sev as the melancholic, and Fixer as the pure-hearted phlegmatic. Also, within the Star Wars universe, we have the Bad Batch, with Wrecker as the sanguine, Hunter as the choleric, Tech as the melancholic, and Echo as the phlegmatic. In Mortal Kombat 10, we have the second generation of fighters known as the Combat Kits that fulfill this archetype, with Cassie as the snarky and arrogant sanguine, Kung Jin as the reckless, hothead choleric who is always questioning Cassie's orders, Jackie as the serious and critical melancholic, and Takeda as the kind and diplomatic phlegmatic personality. The four personalities trope also applies to the four council races in the Mass Effect trilogy, with the Solarians typically being the curious and excited sanguine, the humans being the impatient, trigger-happy cholerics, the Turians being the rigid and disciplined melancholics, and the Asari balancing them all out as the diplomatic phlegmatic personalities. The Hogwarts houses in Harry Potter count as well, with Slytherin being the witty and ambitious sanguine, Gryffindor being the bold and headstrong choleric, Ravenclaw as the thoughtful and analytical melancholic, and Hufflepuff rounding them off as the grounded and compassionate phlegmatic. By the way, Avatar: The Last Airbender has 2 examples of this 4 personality archetype. The first example is with the Aang gang, as Aang himself is the social butterfly sanguine, Toph is the blunt and tough choleric, Sokka is the sarcastic melancholic, and Katara is the phlegmatic mother hen. The second example is with the 4 nations, as the air nomads are considered sanguine, the fire nation is choleric, the earth kingdom is melancholic, and the water tribes are phlegmatic. The show's sequel, The Legend of Korra, also has a 4 personality archetype with Team Avatar, as Bolin is the funny and bubbly sanguine, Korra is the headstrong and impatient choleric, Mako is the cold and moody melancholic, and Asami is the caring phlegmatic whose sweetness keeps the team glued together. Going back to our sitcom examples with the Golden Girls, Blanche is the charismatic but shallow sanguine, Sophia is the spunky and chaotic choleric, Dorothy is the cynical, grounded, and realistic melancholic, while Rose is the sweetheart phlegmatic. With the main cast in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Charlie is the plucky sanguine, Mac is the hothead choleric, Dennis is the control freak melancholic, and Dee is the sole feminine presence as the phlegmatic. The third and last version of the 4-man band is the 4 Philosophies. This is really just a reskin of the 4 personalities, as it swaps out characteristics and personality traits with philosophical beliefs and mental attitudes, which I personally feel like are pretty synonymous with emotional dispositions. Nonetheless, I'll go ahead and cover them as well. In the 4 philosophy version of the 4-man band, the 4 character archetypes you get are the cynic, the optimist, the realist, and the apathetic. I feel like the names of those archetypes pretty much speak for themselves, so we're just going to go ahead and look at some examples of the 4 philosophies. As promised, we're looking at the Ghostbusters one last time, with Aikman as the cynic, Ray as the optimist, Winston as the realist, and Egon as the apathetic. In Marvel's First Family, the Thing is the cynic who always distrusts science and criticizes their odds. Reed is the optimist who thinks science can fix everything. Sue is the realist who tries to get the boys to stop arguing. Meanwhile, Johnny is the apathetic because he's not even paying attention to the conversation. With the Turtles, Raph is the bitter and jaded cynic, Mikey is the optimist who sees the best in everyone, Leo is the realist who tries to look at everything objectively, and Donnie is the apathetic who distances himself by gauging into his electronics. As for our 3 musketeers, Athos is the cynic due to his tragic past, D'Artagnan is the optimist due to being young and enthusiastic, Porthos is the realist due to his practical, down-to-earth demeanor, and Aramis is the apathetic, since he's more invested in his spiritual life and personal affairs than politics. In the Golden Girls, Sophia is the grouchy and negative cynic, Rose is the air-headed optimist, Dorothy is the pragmatic realist, and Blanche is the apathetic who is too distracted with her vanity to provide any real philosophical input into the conversation or issue at hand. In classic movies like The Wizard of Oz and Reservoir Dogs, the Cowardly Lion is the cynic who is always doubting himself. Dorothy is the optimist who believes in dreams and hope. The Tin Man is the practical realist, and the Scarecrow is the playful yet easygoing and detached apathetic. Yet, in Reservoir Dogs, out of the 4 survivors of the heist, Mr. Pink is the cynic who believes that there is a traitor in the group and that Mr. Orange is going to die. Mr. White is the optimist who doesn't believe that there is a traitor or that they're going to lose Mr. Orange, while Mr. Orange himself is the realist who knows that he's not going to survive his injuries. And Mr. Blonde is the apathetic, who doesn't care if there's a rat or not, or whether Mr. Orange survives or doesn't. Like I mentioned earlier, I've slightly redefined the 4-man band archetype compared to how it's explained on TV tropes. According to their definition, the term 4-man band specifically refers to the comic trio plus 1 extra member, but that never quite made sense to me, so I decided to relabel that particular version as the Funny Foursome and group all 3 variations of the 4-person team under the broader umbrella of the 4-man band. For me, that approach just felt more logical and streamlined. It also made the tropes easier to break down and a lot more accessible for you guys to follow. If you want to learn more about the 4-man band team archetype, then go ahead and take a look at the TV Tropes website, where they have a whole library of knowledge dedicated to tropes and archetypes within storytelling. If you're interested in learning more about writing techniques, go ahead and subscribe so that you can get notified when I post a new video. Leave a comment down below and list off any fictional ensembles that you think might be a 4-man band. Don't forget to like this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.